Are you ready to join me in transforming fear to freedom? That's the objective of the show. Are you ready to explore with me and my guests? Are you ready to get into the deep and play? This is where it's at, and that's what it's all about. No medical advice here. Use discernment and decide for yourself if the information is right for you. All views and opinions expressed on this show belong to the individual and are not necessarily shared with the producer of the show. Want more details? Go to letsgetrealchattingwithcatherine.com. Now let's get real and have some fun. Who are we going to explore with today? Come on with me and let's get into the deep. All right, so welcome back once again to Let's Get Real, Chatting with Catherine. It's my absolute pleasure to be sitting down with Rose Sangregorio once again, a regular and frequent guest on the show. And I just love your energy, Rose, and I'm so happy to be able to sit down at the end of 2013. You know, it's December, so we're finishing off this big year of the feminine, and I really want to get into what's been happening, what the changes are. So welcome, Rose.
Hello to everyone, and thank you, Catherine, once again to have me on your show. It's lovely to be here, and it's lovely to share whatever comes through me at these talks that we have. Thank you.
It's so refreshing to be bringing this to people, to be having this experience myself and with you, that where we're just allowing what wants to happen, allowing the wisdom to come through. No script, just really real information that feels like it wants to be talked about. And that's what makes this so much fun for me, is because, you know, I'm always curious, that's for sure. And you're so forthcoming with your sharing, and it's so nice, because I find, Rose, that the feedback I've been getting from viewers and people, even months after we've done a show, they're coming back and saying, boy, you know, I love Rose's energy. That's a big thing. People really pick up on you're grounded and you're wise, and you're bringing that forward in such a gentle way. They can hear you. And, you know, you're not preaching, you're just sharing. And that's why I really love to do this.
Thank you.
Well,
yeah.
I'm just speaking the truth here.
Yeah, it is. Oh my goodness. It's the end of the year almost. Yeah.
And that was, just thinking about doing the show with you and thinking about, wow, we're in December 2013 already. This was when we were coming into 2013. There was a lot of talk about the feminine. The feminine's coming back. 13 in numerology, I hear is the feminine. It's the feminine year. So it was the big year for the feminine to come back. And so, I mean, gosh, when you look at all the things that have happened, all the weather changes, all the people changes, all the political things going on, and a lot of personal change. A lot of people are experiencing a lot of change. So I was wondered, you know, from your point of view, from your experience, and you've been traveling all over the world, which is, you know, fantastic, because you can pick up the energy in all the different places. What would you, like, did it happen? Did the feminine come back is that why we're seeing a lot of these changes?
Well, short answer, yes. The feminine is back. It's being anchored more firmly in our world and in our paradigm, the way we live and exist on Earth at this time. But there's a lot more that's been happening and going on this year. Mm-hmm. This year has been a year totally of changes. But, you know, just going back, our last talk, I believe, was end of September. Mm-hmm. And we ended up not talking now for the whole of October and November, and here we are at the beginning of December. So a lot has happened in these last 2 months since we last spoke.
Right.
And one of the big events, there were a lot of events all year long. Lots of different things occurred, planetary alignments and star alignments and all of that. A lot of that. But the last the last really major event was our eclipses that occurred at the end of October, beginning of November. We had a solar and a lunar eclipse. The other way around, lunar eclipse first, solar eclipse second.
Right.
And what those eclipses did for us, for those who were ready, and I know our planet has people like those who are attracted to listening to this video chat,
Right.
and are attracted to your site, my site. We are more the ones who are consciously aware compared to those who are living life and not as consciously aware of what's really going on. So not to say we are better because we're consciously aware and they're not. It's just the different consciousnesses that exist in our planet, which makes our planet so beautiful. Because if we were all the same, it would be very boring. And so with those two eclipses, we had a window of opportunity where all of us could truly go to the deepest core of our beings and transform what we could transform at that time, and with intention. And that's what I mean, the difference, those aware and awake already versus those who haven't yet.
Right.
And so what happened in those 2 weeks, and then we're talking, the 2 weeks before and the 2 weeks after. So it's actually a month period of time. What's actually happened is that those eclipses helped us to go deep within ourselves and look at what is it that I really, truly want to let go of? What is it that no longer serves me at this time in my life to fulfill what I choose to fulfill into my future? And so what it meant for all of us, and this is across the board, the whole planet, but some were able to take more of the awareness and do something with it, and some were not. And that's fine. We've all been activated, and that's important to know. And so what's happened is it's given us that opportunity to look at, what really do I want to let go of? It's one thing to say I want to let go of this and that, but do I really want to let it go? Because many people say, I want to let go, but when push comes to shove, they really are afraid. What's going to happen if I let this go? What does that mean for my future? What does that mean for my relationships? And so people, as much as they want to let go, are not spiritually strong enough, knowing in their hearts that it's okay. It's okay to step into a new future, a new paradigm, and let it go. Yes?
I just want to, when you say let go, just so people understand, that could be anything from letting go, I just want to expand on that a little bit, because when you say letting go, so letting go of a belief, letting go of maybe anger, letting go of the way you've been doing things. When you say that, letting go, a lot of times when you say people don't really want to do it serves us in some way, even though it's not it on the conscious level or logical level. It's like, why would I want to hurt myself by holding on to that? But there is something to that, isn't it? So when you say letting go, you're talking about
I'm talking about many layers,
okay.
many layers. I'm talking about, we want to let go of thoughts, feelings, emotions, patterns of behavior. Maybe we're in relationships that are stopping us from being our highest potential. Could be work, could be government systems, which we're watching shift on our planet. It could be education systems. So I'm talking on a global level now.
Okay.
So as an individual, what I choose to change within myself and in my environment, my life, then affects my family, which then in turn affects the community, which in turn affects the country, which affects our world. And so as I look at myself and say, wow, where do I limit myself? Where could I be a better person? Or what can I do to change so that I can be free of my limitations? Limitations can be guilt, anger, frustration, judgments. So many different things create limitation within us. And so it's a matter of looking at what is it that I I'm carrying that's limiting me, which then limits my family, which then limits my community, my country, my world. What can I change? And so when I talk about letting go, it's about changing. It's about having the strength and the conviction to say, you know what? I need to change this, and I'm not afraid. Now, the human nature is to be afraid of change. Our spiritual nature loves change. That's what spiritual nature is about. It's about expansion. It's about growth. It's about sharing. That's spiritual nature. Human nature is a little more conservative. Human nature is a little afraid of the changes, like what happens in the future. If I change this, then what does that mean? Well, spiritual nature says, I know in my heart and soul this is correct. I'm going to change it. I'm going to let go of that old belief, or I'm going to let go of that old structure, and I'm going to move forward because I know in my heart, spiritually, all will be well. And so we've been given this huge gift that happened in October to November, that we as individuals have been able to make these choices. So we've been talking for years about this new paradigm. The new golden age is coming. Well, it's here. And I feel, according to the way my information comes to me from the masters and beings of light that I work with, they've said to me, this is it. This point of time between mid-October to mid-November with those two eclipses is where we began to actually anchor the new paradigm. Like we actually are anchoring the new paradigm. And so definitely we get tons of emails and calls, and when I do workshops, people coming in and saying, wow, I've changed, my whole life has changed, everything that I knew is gone. And and of course then fear sets in, like, now what am I going to do? But I believe that if you keep that spiritual strength in your heart and soul, and you stay connected to your source, whatever source means to you is fine. Doesn't matter to me what you call your source. But if I can stay connected in my heart and soul, I know, even though my logical mind can't figure out why, I know within my heart and soul that it's going to be okay. Yeah. And then I have the strength and I have the courage to move forward into the next step. And notice I said the next step, not into the future to create, way out there 20 years from now. This is the next step. It's just like when we're newborns. We learn things step by step. We are newborns in this new paradigm. And we are definitely right now anchoring the new paradigm. So the question becomes, what do you want to create? All the things that are being sloughed off, that are no longer necessary, no longer conducive to your greatest potential, what do you want to let go of? And it's really interesting, because when I create workshops and I book dates and I decide what to teach, I don't look at moon cycles, I don't look at what's going on the planet at that time. But we just did a workshop last weekend on tools to let go. And it was like perfect timing, because we've just come out of those 2 eclipse cycles. We're now ready, standing ready. What do you want to really let go of to manifest your new life at this time? So in January, I have the second part of that workshop, which people can take even if they didn't do the letting go, because it's called Open Your Heart, Tools to Manifest. So here, as we let go, what do we want to manifest?
So this is January. This January?
Yes.
So, okay. So open the heart.
Yeah. It's going to be the first weekend in January. And even if people haven't done the first one, you still will have huge benefit by doing the manifestation class.
Okay. I want to ask you about, we've had this support, this gift, as you say, for this period, and there's a lot of people who've been feeling it. I've been, reading the different Facebook posts, and people emailing me, and some of the shows I've done and stuff. So it's been, a roller coaster a bit of letting go and all that stuff. But what happens to, so how we're all on these different levels of learning, and or maybe their levels are like this. They're not hierarchical at all, but whatever. We're all at different points. So
Yes.
The people, so there's people on the planet who are more aware and others that aren't as aware. What the people that aren't or didn't even notice this whole period happening and the opportunity to be supported and letting go, say they're at a different space, is it a kind of collective, like a snowball kind of effect where when that person's ready, because we've shifted the energy, they will be able to make that change because there is no time in reality? Or am I... Because I'm just wondering about, because people go now, oh my God, I wish I would have known about that. I didn't know, or something. I'm just saying that it's possible. How do we...
Well, that's why I said it's across the board, across our planet. We all have been affected by these energies. For those who have already awakened or become aware, I don't like to use awakened because we're always awake. It just means that our awareness, our consciousness has become higher and deeper in our creation, and so we are more aware.
Right.
But what happens for the people who weren't as aware? It doesn't matter, because I'm going to do a little bit of physics here. If we took a tuning fork and tuned it to high C note, and we took another tuning fork and we have it at low C, by the law of physics, the low note will actually vibrate to the higher note. That's works. So we are, as individuals, we are energy fields. That's what we are.
Right.
We look solid. We look like we are mass and matter. But if you go deep enough, all we are is a bunch of electrons and neutrons and protons vibrating. And so what happens is when I do my meditations and I do my prayers, or someone else does their prayers and someone else does their chanting, as they increase their vibration, what happens is we emanate that light to those around us, whether we like it or not. That's what happens.
Right.
And so when I am in this state of being of this higher frequency, everyone else will start to vibrate at that level. Wow. That's how our planet is changing. And this is, all the events that have happened over the last 30, 40 years, different things that pushed us to different frequencies so we could raise to a new awareness. And then, we've got the ones who are the sort of the way showers, the ones who take the gauntlet and move into that new place, which is what's just happened. There are those who are consciously looking at, wow, this is where I'm limiting myself. This is where I could be a better person. This is where I need to let go of this or that. So when I look at that and I choose to make the change, and I do what I can to the best of my ability to make that change happen, I then create the energy for the potential of our collective to change. The more people we have, the quicker that collective energy increases vibrationally, the quicker other people who are not doing any of this stuff are affected. And I do want to say, I want to make the point that it doesn't have to be that you're listening to Catherine's Chatting with Catherine, and it doesn't have to be that you come to Rose Sangregorio's workshops or read my book. It's all about the spiritual connection of the heart and soul. So someone who's living a very deeply spiritual life but doesn't do what we're doing here does not mean they don't get the chance to elevate themselves. We all have that chance. We all have the opportunity. We all have free will choice to do what we want to do.
And
so I want to make sure.
But the more of us that are, it seems like that is part of what's been happening that, a lot of us are aware of, is that more people on the planet, first of all, 7 billion of us, and a lot more people raising their vibration like the tuning fork. So regardless, we're going to make it a better world in a higher vibration energy frequency just by just doing what we're doing. So we don't have to go out and try and change the world or change everybody else's beliefs. We just have to be who we are, and by default, like you said, that tuning fork, it'll raise its vibration. So I think that's important to know.
And it's important to know as well that it's a matter of free will choice. I cannot make you change. I cannot make people who are listening to this change. All I can do is bring the vibration to the consciousness of everyone so that you can make the choices to change.
Well, it's like,
but it makes it easier. It makes it easier because in the past we had such dark or heavy energy filled with a lot of negativity, filled with a lot of uncertainty. I mean, not that we were negative by choice. It was by choice because we choose freely what we believe in and what we think and feel. But at the same time, we were so governed by the collective energies. But by free will choice, so many of us have changed that. And so when we change through conscious free will choice to choose for the higher good of all, the greater good of all creation, not just me, it's about we. It's about let's cooperate together. And this is the new energies for the new paradigm. And you see it more and more. Let's cooperate together. Let's collaborate to create something new for this new world that we're creating. And you see it more and more. People no longer want to work by themselves. They want to work as a community that's sharing for the greater good of all.
But then they still want to be their individual selves, so, which is the awesome thing. Whereas before we used to think you had to give up your individuality and uniqueness to become part of community. Now we're seeing the value of the individual and what they bring to that community in a cooperative effort. So we're letting go a lot. I feel that in my life too, Rose, is letting go of competition. Recognizing there's only one me, only one show exactly like this show because it's part of me, it's part of my vision. So I'm not competing with every other internet radio show out there because I don't need to. It's not, I'm bringing the value is this uniqueness, but it's a coming together of community, like having you and all my other guests bringing their wisdom together. So what would we be competing with? There's no, you can't compete. It's like apples and oranges. Every show is a dynamic exchange of energy between, like each of us. And that's what, I'm noticing too is, and I want to talk about this a little bit because this is where I like to bring the spiritual to the practical and, bring it together. And that's that whole concept of where people are starting to follow their bliss, starting to follow their passion. And years ago, we were kind of trained that you couldn't make a living following your passion. And now we recognize that's the only way to actually make a living. Otherwise, it's just a job, right? If you really want to live, you've got to follow your passion and the universe will support you. That's been what I've learned. So in doing that kind of thing, we can't do that new thinking with the old paradigm of business. And I'm noticing a lot of people who are I'm not saying it's wrong. It may work for some people, but what I'm really feeling is that the idea of the way we've thought of business, the way we've thought of marketing, the way we've thought of how to get our products and services out into the world, all of that was based on an idea that there wasn't enough. And that and you had to be better than the next guy or girl or woman or whatever. And sometimes you had to put down the other people in order to get yourself known, right? It was sort of like that stepping on people. It happens in politics, it happens in the social system, it happens in business. And now I think what you're talking about is an entirely different way of being. So that means the systems that supported the old way aren't going to work for us.
Well, it's a whole new paradigm. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? A whole new paradigm means it's like cleaning the slate and let's start brand new. Mm-hmm. So those old structures, those old beliefs, mm-hmm. those old thoughts, feelings, emotions no longer serve us. And so when I talk about a community coming together, it's like we build a community of people who can support each other to be the best they can be, totally no competition. It's all about supporting each other. and bringing to the table all that I can do, all that you can do, all the next person can do, so that we can create a greater whole. And from that greater whole, the rest of the world will benefit. Mm-hmm. And so that is a whole new structure, a whole new way of thinking, a whole new way of being. You know, it's very different to say, okay, well, let's do this together and we share in the success. Mm-hmm. Because the old patterning is, well, I'll invite you to share with me, but I'm going to have the bigger take because it's my event. And so that's an old paradigm thing. And so this is very concrete, and a lot of people do this. But the new paradigm is, wow, you know, I can do this, you can do that, so-and-so can do that. Let's create something together so that the people who attend will receive the best they can receive. Because, of course, I can't be 100% of everything else. I can only be 100% of me and what I can offer. And so when you put together a team of people who are all with the same consciousness saying, we're doing this together, then we share in the profit together or the loss together. It's the way it is.
It's like a big potluck supper. You know, it's like a big potluck supper. You know, if you can't have the whole table full of potato salad, it would be just absolutely boring. Each person's gift, each person will have their gift. And it's funny because, you know, you think about, I take this to the meal because I do this with my show a lot about recipes and mixing it up and stuff. And because it makes sense to me when it's something we can all visualize. You look at a table and you have it set with all your, you know, say entrees, your meat, your potatoes, your whatever. If there's no pickles, there's no salads, there's no whatever, right? And it's not going to have the same effect. And you might say, well, the entrees are the most important thing. Well, no, they can't be, because the entrees aren't, they just don't have the same taste, flavor, zest, everything without the rest. And that's what you're talking about. I mean, I can be the host of a show, but if you're not here sharing with me, sharing with us, there is no show. I can't do the show with Rose by myself. Right?
Well, and that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Because the entree is the main course. But the main course can only stand alone for so long before people start saying, wow, you know, I'd really like some dessert. Or, gee, I'd really like a glass of wine. Or I'd love a glass of water. It's like we need all the pieces to create the whole. Mm-hmm. And this is a whole new way of being. It's a whole new way of existing on this planet. And it's very different than what we're used to. And so, of course, these old structures are breaking down. And of course, everything's up in the air in chaos. Most people view it as chaos. That it's like, wow, I don't know what to do. What's right? What's wrong? What's going to work? What's not going to work? Well, it's just about patience. It's about allowing yourself to be patient with the system and the process.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Okay, so we don't have the template. We haven't done it. What's your, you know, guidance on how do we step into it? I mean, I've found that myself. I've been lost at times. Well, what do I do now? I feel like I'm ready to just, you know, I've let go of the old. I'm ready to just get going. And then it's like, what does that look like? I have no idea. So is that where the tools that you know, have been teaching for so long, you know, come into play? Is that where you go within and like surrender? Is that what, I mean, some of this stuff we've been learning for a long time, and I feel like we've been learning it not just for then, but for right now. Like
well, and that's, you know, when I first was, I don't know if you want to call it visited, when I first was connected to the masters, and they came to me and they said, you know, Rose, we're going to teach you. And they said to me, don't go to other teachers, don't read other books, because we need to teach you for the new paradigm. Yeah. And so in the beginning, it was a little tough, because I'm the type, I used to be, not anymore, I used to be the type of person that I really needed other people to tell me, yeah, this is how to do it, and, you know, you're doing it right, you're doing it wrong here. But it was like the masters were teaching me. And so what they did is, through the process of not going to other teachers and the process of not reading books and stuff in the early years, because I do now.
Yes.
What it did for me is it solidified for me the teachings that I give. And yes, some of the workshops, they used to be in those days really different. Like they were way out there stuff. And now the workshops that I bring through are different, and yet they're the same. It's still the same material. The meditations are still where we connect from our heart and soul to source, and we connect to the earth and beyond, so that we can be grounded in our bodies and grounded in our world. I mean, so what if I'm ascended? So what? Really, truly, I'm in this life. So if I'm ascended, what does that mean? Well, that means that then I can live in my life. I can still balance a checkbook. I can still be there as a mother and a wife and a daughter. I can be there as a sister and a friend. But how does that look as an ascended person? This is what we're talking about. The ability to see the oneness in all of us, that we are all one.
Right.
And yet each one of us is so unique that no one else can do what we do. And no matter what you do, it's important to the paradigm of this new world.
That is so important, Rose.
Oh, very, very important. And so definitely the things I've been teaching for years, I've taught a lot of people channeling. I've taught a lot of people that are quite successful in their own world and what they do. And I'm here now to help the rest, I guess, and to help those who have been there before to take the next step into the next layer of teachings. But it's really, really important for people to realize that we are all special. Just because I do what I do does not make me better than you.
No.
We are all special. And if your role is to be whatever, a housewife or a house husband, or an engineer, or a priest, it doesn't matter, as long as you do what you're here to do, fulfilling your passion. And that is the key for a new world. It's fulfilling the passion. It's what you came here to learn to do on this planet and share it.
That's, I think, a real big key for even for parents or for young people who are starting out. When I grew up, there were only so many boxes that you had to pick one, because you went to your school counselor and they said you can be a this or this or this, or, and that was it. And there was nothing outside of that box. And now, really, the sky's the limit, because obviously, if 7 billion people are on the planet, all having their unique gifts and talents, not to say there won't be 2 nurses or 2 doctors or 2, that you might be doing similar profession, but you're not doing the same beingness. You're not. You can't, because you're an individual. I think that's what we're getting now, is the 2 things, individual and community. We're getting the 2 things.
Well, I would say it's about the oneness, because we're all one. It's recognizing that, so that then we are able to acknowledge each other for who we are. We don't separate. That's including the animals and the plants. We recognize we are one. So that's first thing. We're number one, like we are in oneness. The next thing is to recognize we are a unique individual being with free will choice. In this new paradigm, then, with those 2 pieces, we then hold the energies of integrity. Integrity is huge in our new world. And so anything that is not in integrity is going to be brought to the surface. It might not happen today or tomorrow, but it will come to the surface, because it can no longer exist in the new world. There's compassion. We learn to carry compassion with the energy of action. So it's no more like in the old paradigm. We had compassion for those around us, compassion for people that, were on the streets. But the new world is about compassion with action. That we hold compassion in our heart, that unconditional loving energy, but we take action based on what my specific role is at this moment in time. And then cooperation and collaboration are important. So that's 5 elements. I think that's 5, right? Oneness, unique individual or individualization of soul, which is the way the masters call it. We have compassion with action, cooperation, and collaboration. This creates the new paradigm.
So,
and those 5.
Well, when you say, excuse me, sorry. When you say those things cannot exist, so that's where we I guess I'm asking the question, what's the best way then for us to, as we see things are going to crumble, we're going to see some chaos, we're going to see some turmoil, it's going to look like a lot of people are lies and corruption, it's all going to come to the surface for us to see, much like infection. I've often said, infection always comes to the surface before it heals. So we're going to see more of that. And what would you say is our highest way of experiencing what is going to happen physically on the planet as we see our systems fall down?
Okay, so how I would say it is always the best thing to do is to always take it back to the self, to the personal self.
Okay.
Because as we witness all this happening, the crumbling of the old structures, it's really important that we remain in a neutral state. Mm-hmm. And in that neutrality, and it is a little difficult for some people because you have reactive energies. You have energies within you, or we all do, where we react to things. Mm-hmm. And that's the challenge. It's great to say we're in a new paradigm. I'm an enlightened being. I'm this new person. But then something happens and I respond with anger or worry or, so I react. Yeah. So it's important to notice, where do you stay non-neutral? Where do you react? And when you react, and this is where all my meditations help, mm-hmm. and the tools in my book help. I can't speak for other people's work. I know there's great work out there, mm-hmm. but I'm speaking about mine because I know it. Yeah. And this is where my work, the meditations, the CDs, the audio downloads, the lectures, the classes, the books, all of that helps the individual recognize the strength within them, that is their spiritual strength, so that they can make the choice to change those reactive energies. Because no one can change them for you unless you choose to change them yourself. Right. So you can go to someone to help you. You can go to someone to give you tools and techniques. But the end result is you still have to do it yourself. No one can do it for you.
Right. But I'm kind of remembering a conversation we had a while ago. And I'm not sure how this applies, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Okay. You know how one person can have an experience on this planet that is joy, abundant, loving, prosperous, everything. Another person can have a different reality, can have chaos and confusion and war and whatever. And they can happen at the same time because there is no time and the paradigms, the choosing of the paradigms, whatever. So I'm wondering if when the systems are falling down, one person's experience, I guess I'm trying to, maybe this is more of a practical, I'm not really understanding this question myself, but it's like the system's still going to fall. Mm-hmm. This person over here who's believing in chaos and whatever is going to have a reaction to it that's maybe, oh my God, the world's ending, this is awful, blah, blah, blah. Another person's going to see it and say, well, that had to happen, thankfully, and let's move on. And it'll be just another day in the life of. So what I'm asking you is, the system falling is going to happen no matter which person you are. And all you're doing is choosing how you're going to experience it. Is that about right?
Totally. Okay. And so the person who is already in a state of having no money to pay the bills and they've lost their job and maybe a child has just been diagnosed with cancer. I'm just making this all up. But, that person's experience of these structures breaking down, of course, are going to be totally different than a person who has money and is living an abundant, joyful life. But it's the choice we make and how we respond to what's going on. And in the new energies, when we choose a different way, even though I can still be, upset my child was diagnosed with cancer, but I don't get caught in that energy. I don't get caught in, wow, poor me, I don't have work, and now my child needs money, and blah, blah, blah. All that stuff.
The story.
Those energies are what create the energy within and around us that creates the energy in our world. And so if I can choose, even though, wow, I'm sad my child is sick, I would love to be working, I would love to be making money, but at this moment I choose to be okay with it. And so I'm not reacting. And when I choose that, what it does energetically for our planet is it creates this energy field that gives everyone else the opportunity to choose different.
And it will change your actual experience of it too.
Totally. Because of that whole tuning fork thing, because if I choose a different way, a better way, or a higher expression, whatever you want to call it, and I remain neutral within the energy, that energy then is supported by the divine energies, which then it just sits there, it hovers around our planet, waiting for us to choose this new way. And then those energies come in and support the people who make those choices around the same type of circumstances so that they can live a better life.
I'm not sure, if this is exactly appropriate, but it's funny because lately I've had several people asking me about my experience when my son was killed in a car accident. And this is exactly what you're talking about. So I just want to speak to that a little bit so that, because I really get it, that it doesn't change the fact that, so March of 2012, my son was killed in a car accident, my oldest son, and with two other people, young people, and two other people were really seriously injured, and they've since recovered, which is awesome. But anyway, yes, I lost my son physically. Yes, that is something we don't, as parents, we certainly don't expect to happen. But because I feel like I didn't take it personally, I didn't think God did this to me, or this was a punishment, instead I kind of took, and I will admit that, probably from all of the work I did and your help too, Rose, the teachings and the learnings that I had, when I came to that crossroad, that event in my life, I kind of remained neutral. I kind of didn't see it as, there was tears and it was a bit of a shock, and I wasn't expecting it for sure, but I didn't turn it into, why did this have to happen to me? And when people said to me how tragic it was, I had to he was almost 30, and yet he had lived more than a lot of people do in 100 years. So where's the tragedy? And my, not discounting anyone's pain or suffering or feeling that, but I do see that by having that realization in me, it changed everything around me. It changed my relationships with other people, because all of a sudden they were able to, even if they didn't understand it, they were certainly able to, they were experiencing death, a transition in a whole different way, because my energy had changed. So to me, it was when I really finally got that there is no death, and that his dropping his body, there's only one way off the planet. So you've got to drop the body, and how you do it or whatever is your choice, right? We all have those choices, and we've talked about that before. So I really get that. Why that experience was different for me is because I had already changed my energy before it happened, and I was open to the possibility that oh, this doesn't actually mean I've been a bad mother, I did something wrong, he did something wrong. People were using words like, oh, we were cheated out of him, he never got married, he did, all those words. And I was like, so he was done. When you're done, you leave, right? Yeah, and what really was cool to me was a realization that I had just recently with somebody that was saying, well, somebody else had this experience and they're still not over it and all this stuff. And I thought, we get so caught up in a human patterning of when we have something we treasure, we forget that if, like, a baby comes to you and is born, and lives one day, you got to meet the baby for one day. It's the most precious gift ever. But if they don't live past the one day, now you're going to grieve we just grieve and grieve and grieve instead of celebrating the one day. And that's what I realized, was that, not that there's anything wrong with grief, but it's that energy of recognizing, just celebrate in the moment every day, celebrate the joy, celebrate the life, and because we haven't lost anything. That was, and so I just, sorry for going on, but I just really wanted to, that to me is exactly what you're talking about. It doesn't matter if you lose your job or your divorce or whatever, it's how the energy you're in when you experience and how you perceive it.
See, I call it reactive versus responding. That's how I differentiate. Okay. Because what you do is you come from a place of response. Wow, my son died. I'm sad. I cried, but I will celebrate his life. I will celebrate the moments I've had with him. And I choose not to get stuck in the negativity, because our world's paradigm is that it's a tragedy, that it's a loss. It's not a loss. No. Their spirit lives. They're still around us. We just don't see them and experience them the same way. So what ends up happening by you making those choices to respond from a neutral place with love in your heart, you've actually planted seeds in the collective energy of our planet, so that others who have similar experiences find it easier to respond in this new way versus the old. But in the end, we still have free will choice.
Yes.
And you chose not to get caught in the negative part of the experience. You chose to take it into the higher expression. And that's what a lot of people forget to do. They forget, I can choose what I'm experiencing this moment.
And also part of our conditioning, because in order to have a different response or different outcome, in my case, I had many deaths in my family, so, and I was raised Catholic, and so the whole process and beliefs in my family, I had to go against all of those other people's ideas about what the mother should be doing. And so but the amazing, I will call that the grace, because I did choose a different response, but there was by the grace of God, I will say, is what turned that for me into total empowerment, total knowing. I didn't feel like I had to prove anything to anyone or conform to anyone else's beliefs. I knew. There was a knowing that was so strong and powerful that there was no doubt. And I think, I'm speaking for myself, but I think it was the road to then was paved. I had prepared, I had healed, I had forgiven, I had done my work before I got to that date. Didn't know that's what I was preparing for, but I do think that does make a difference.
And you planted those seeds, and definitely the work we do on ourselves today will affect our responses in the future or reactions in the future.
Right.
That's where I tell people, most people will come to me when they're in their emergency state, like something's happened and they're having a difficult time and they want help. And I call that the emergency state. But when you're in emergency state, it's just like in a hospital. We can only do so much in the moment. And then as they start to heal and they start to change their patterns and we start to change the consciousness of how they've always done things, then I call it the emergence of spirit in matter. And when we come to the emergence of spirit in matter, a lot of people will stop their work. And so then life happens, and the next time they have a major event, then they're back in emergency mode. What you're talking about is what I always say to people. It's like, stay in the emergence of spirit and matter. Once you get through the stuff that triggers you to get the help and to follow this path of awareness and of spirit and matter, then keep doing your work. Because then when events occur, for you it was your son dying in a tragic accident, when that occurs, you have the inner strength to stay neutral and know in the moment what is the right action to serve the greater good of all. Because by you staying neutral, you actually helped all those people around you to see a different way.
Exactly. And that's, I'm thinking, is that when we're looking at going forward here, for those people who are just sort of embarking on this journey and saying, oh, well, things are going to fall apart. It's not about doomsday. It's just about change. And as you said earlier, humans don't like change. So we're going to see this change, the falling down of systems and so forth, as something, for most of it's going to be like we don't like. On the other hand, some of us are going to say, yay, it's about time. But it depends on how we are prepared for it. And I think that's a really important part, is that you have a lot of tools and workshops and CDs and things that help people to do just that. Like, to prepare. You're not preparing for crisis. You're just,
well, what it is the tools, all the methods. It's about learning to be a physical person in matter as a human, but letting your spiritual personality shine through. So the personality of the human nature, which is based on fear, no longer comes through. It might pop up every once in a while, but your spiritual personality shines through and says, you know what, it's okay to be fearful right now, but I know it'll work out, or whatever the situation is. So the tools that's all they are, is tools. You still have to make the choices. And one thing I want to say is, and a lot of people know this that have done my classes, ease and grace. Ask for ease and grace. Ask for everything you want, and then ask for it to come to you with ease and grace to serve the highest and greatest good of all. And when you do that, what will happen is the structures break down and change. The trauma of those changes become lessened, depending on how much of a structure breakdown it is. And we're in the time right now where everything is in chaos. The structures have broken down. Most of them have broken down. There's still a few more, but they've broken down on the etheric plane. And so it's feeding into the physical. Everything's up in the air, bits and pieces of this new energy to create with. And now it's about us making the choices. I'm going to pull this out and create this. And I'll pull this in, and they'll resonate together to create this. They'll go into harmony. So that's where we are right now. It's a matter of timing for all of us, to be patient, to be able to know that it's not the world ending. Yes, it could appear like the world is ending. The world as we know it with the old structures is ending, that's for sure. But we have the fortitude, we have the strength, because of our spiritual connection, to be able to make those changes happen.
So where 2013 was the year of the feminine coming in, and it's really anchored now, as you're saying, that's energy's here, supporting us all, women and men, to balance, right? So what do you see as 2014? Is that more of the balancing?
Well, let me just say something, because it just came to me. We do regular meditation nights here in Calgary, okay? And those meditation nights, they're about once a month. They sometimes are shorter time period or longer, depending on when we're in town. But people can be part of those meditation nights, to be part of the energy matrix, and they get links of the lecture and the meditation. Now, the reason this is coming up is because of your question, because we just had one last Wednesday, and it's on our online store. It's the November 27th one. And in that evening, Mother Mary came through, and she gave a beautiful course, and then Archangel Michael. And in answer to your question, okay, is that the energy of the feminine has been anchored, but that means a lot of structures are breaking down because of it. It's not about feminine power. It's about the feminine and the masculine together, harmonized, bringing the power of the divine through to physical matter. And so moving into 2014, it is going to be more about taking the pieces and consciously making choices for the new creation of the new paradigm. They're saying that it's not going to happen in a month or two. No. This takes time. It's taken centuries to build those old structures. They've been broken down. We're going to witness more and more breaking down in the physical reality because it's already done etherically. So 2014 is more a year of making choices for yourself and for the greater good of all. And how do I fit into this pattern, this paradigm of this new awakening and this new beginning? Because it is all about a new beginning. So 2014 will be a year, I feel, that is going to be more about all of us coming up against where do we limit ourselves so that we can choose to not limit and create a new paradigm.
Right.
That's the sense I get.
Yeah, that's awesome. And now, Rose, before we wrap this up, I want to let people know I am hoping, and all goes well with the help of the guides and what have you, to have this video up later today or tomorrow. You are doing an event in Vulcan December 6th, which is Friday, right?
Yes. This Friday evening, it's actually a book signing because it's a store and she carries my books. And then the evening will be a Meet Rose channeled messages from the angels, archangels, the masters, if anyone wants to come.
Yeah, well, I just, thought it would be, it's nice. It's in Vulcan, Alberta, and all the all the information is on your website, right?
Yes.
And also, I will try to put a link in with the description here as well, because if I can, I'm on a learning curve and with my technology. So, but if I can, I will have it up before the event so that people will know it's available. Is there any other message or clarity that you feel that you want to share, or that you're getting some wisdom that I just feel like there's something else, Rose?
Well, what it is because I'm really, those meditation nights I talked about, we do a year-end World Peace Meditation Day and messages for 2014. So we do it usually the last Sunday of the year. Nice. And so for those who can physically come, it's a wonderful event. We do meditation. I bring through messages for 2014. And then we always do a meditation for world peace in a group that I lead. And it is on Sunday, December 29th from 2 o'clock till 4:30. The best is check our website. It's open to people who are not in the Calgary area, because what you can do is sign up and be part of the energy of that day. So anything we receive as an activation or whatever we receive energetically from the masters on that day, and the angels and archangels, everyone receives if they've signed up and registered. Wow. And then the next day you get a link so that you can listen to this over and over, and you get the link for the meditation separately as well, as long as you've paid and you're part of it. Yeah. So I just want to mention that because it's quite a wonderful way to spend a Sunday.
Once you pay and you register, it's interesting because we talk about this new paradigm and getting a better understanding of spirituality and money as energy. And I'm actually doing a show tonight with a woman talking about money and the sacredness of it and so forth. But it's interesting because I found that when I was doing some work with you, as soon as I registered and paid, the guides, the energy, whatever was going to happen, it already started to work way before the actual. So we need, this is something I just really feel like I want to share, is that if we want to be in alignment with something spiritually, someone else's work, then we need to give that exchange of energy to balance. We need to do that and do it with love. And I actually heard an expression, give it, pay your bills, invest in things like this, and say, there's more where that came from. There's more where that came from. Knowing and blessing it.
See, what happens energetically is that once you make the commitment, for example, the Vulcan event or the December 29th, I'm going to go. No matter what happens, I'm going. So I'm going to make the commitment by paying and saying I'm coming. It's almost like the universe can then move. Well, it's not almost like, the universe does. It moves to fulfill your commitment.
Yeah.
And so definitely it happens to people over and over and over. As soon as they sign up, you start getting help, and it's quite an amazing thing to watch.
Yeah.
Because by the time the event happens, like we have our healing nights, we have a healing night scheduled January 3rd, I believe it's a Friday night. And people, again, can come in person or sign up no matter where they are in the world. As soon as you sign up and pay, the stuff people tell me happens to them. It's amazing. So the evening comes, and what they originally signed up for has been cleared. So there's a whole new level. And so, and I do want to say, definitely there's, that Friday night and then Saturday, Sunday of the first weekend in January is Open Your Heart, Tools to Manifest. And I know it's a great class. It's a phenomenal way to learn how to manifest. It's one thing to put it out there, but then what do you need to do to make it really happen in your life?
To make it real for you. And, Rose has so much to offer, and I want to encourage everyone to go to Rose's website, and I'll put the link right on here, and get all the information and sign up for different programs. And I so appreciate this time, Rose, that, you've spent with me and with the viewers to share your wisdom. I really appreciate it. And I know that it is being heard. The feedback I'm getting is telling me that people are really enjoying these chats. So that's all we could ask for.
So I want to say thank you to you, Catherine, for creating the space and the opportunity. And I want to say thank you to all the viewers, because, as I say, thank you for allowing me to be in service, because this is my service.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Excellent. Very good.
So,
and we'll see you in the new year.
Yes, definitely. We'll book some more times together for 2014.
Sounds great. Thanks, Rose.
Bye-bye.
Wasn't that amazing? Thank you to my guests for sharing with us today. Thank you for watching. Feel free to share the link. You can join us for live shows by going to letsgetrealchattingwithcatherine.com and listen to the replays from the show page, preview guests, and explore links to our Facebook fan page, WordPress blog, and more. We are creating an exquisite world. Until next time, take care.